I realized my wife was cheating when I brought my sick daughter home from school. She tried to justify it. I did it because you don't care about me like before. Now the whole neighborhood knows about her affair, and they both lost their jobs. I set up the signs and noted with pride that it was only 4:55, 10 minutes until my wife got home. I walked to the middle of the street and turned to see my work. It looked so beautiful it almost made me cry. My wife's and my queen-sized bed, the kitchen table, and the rug, the three places where I knew for certain that my wife and her lover had repeatedly had relations for the past 6 months, and the signs so perfect, placed high enough that they were out of reach, and one by one I read them. The large sign in front of the furniture said, "These items are yours for the taking for free. They are no longer wanted in this house. If you can stand the stench of adultery and broken promises, help yourself." The sign on the bed said, "On this bed, my wife repeatedly broke her marriage vows and threw our marriage in the trash by having relations with her lover twice a week for the last 6 months. This afternoon was their most recent encounter, and the smell still permeates the sheets." On the kitchen table, there was a sign that said, "My wife and her lover often had relations on this table, usually just a few hours before she served me dinner." On the rug, there was a sign that said, "My wife and her lover seem to prefer this rug for their encounters, something my wife always denied me, claiming it was too disgusting to even think about." To each sign, I had nailed a 40 by 60 centimeters photo of the adulterous couple consummating their union on the corresponding piece of furniture. There was a fifth sign, pinned slightly behind the table, that said, "My wife's lover is her boss, Greg Allen of Michi, Presan, Allen Realty. He is married and has 3 children. I do not think his wife knows anything about this, but she will soon." For 57, just in time, she would be here any moment. I turned and looked around and found a group of neighbors already gathering to see what I was doing. Several cars had stopped and more than one person was on a cell phone, either calling their friends to come take a look or calling the police to have me arrested for encouraging public indecency. I casually waved to the gathering group and went into the house, closing the door behind me. At 5:05 p.m., I saw my wife's car turn the corner at the end of the block and immediately slowed down upon seeing all the people gathered near our house, looking at something on our lawn and talking and laughing among themselves. She slowly drove up to the house we had shared for the last 10 years and stopped in front, staring at the sight of the furniture and signs on our lawn, paying, I am sure, special attention to the large photos of her and her boss, Greg Allen, having relations, their faces masks of lust and pleasure. Even through her car window and my house window, and with all the conversation from the 40 or 50 people who were there watching, I still heard her scream, "No. Oh. Oh God, no." Oh, finally, her eyes moved from the signs to the front window of the house, where she saw me standing. We looked at each other. She seemed desolate. Her face was pale as ash. I could see tears falling down her cheeks. She seemed to be asking me why. I had the same question for her. I watched her for a few seconds, then I turned away from her, closing the curtains behind me. I guess at this point I should explain how my wife Jerry and I came to this tragic place. My name is Jack Meyer. I met Jerry in college in our 3rd year. A mutual friend suggested we get together, and when we first met, I was smitten. Jerry was not a beautiful woman in the classic sense, but she was so damn cute and sexy at 5 feet 3 inches with beautiful blue eyes and dark blonde hair that reached her shoulders. Her body was small but perfectly proportioned. Her 32B breasts and tiny waist captivated me, and although she did not know it at the time, she already had me, and the thought of not winning her over never crossed my mind. Jerry and I started dating, and within a few weeks, we were a couple. A month after we met, we made love for the first time, and it was like nothing I had ever experienced before. I was obsessed with Jerry and could not get enough of her body. Neither of us were virgins the first time, but we were far from experienced. And let's just say we were as deeply in love as was possible for 2 people. We got married right after graduation and moved into our first home, a condo in Van Nuys. Jerry got her real estate license and started working with one of the most prominent agencies in the area. I used my engineering degree to get a good position at an electronics manufacturing company, and we settled into a life that I thought was perfect. For the next 13 years, we shared a fabulous life together, first in our condo. Then as our income increased, We bought our dream house and started our family. First came Shelby, who is now 8 years old. Then 2 years later came Ryan, who is now 6. Jerry and I love those 2 children with total devotion. We live for each other and for our family. So what happened? I wish I could tell you. I wish I could say that I picked up on the little signs that told me something was wrong, but it was not like that. I was totally oblivious, living in a world of absolute love and trust with my wife. It was a stroke of luck that informed me of what was happening, a stroke of luck caused by our daughter Shelby getting sick at school. It was a Thursday, and I received a call just before noon from the school nurse, who informed me that Shelby seemed to have contracted what looked like the flu. At that time, I was in the middle of a work meeting, and I asked the nurse to please call my wife. The nurse told me she had tried to call Jerry at her office, where they told her my wife would be out most of the day. She tried to call our home, but got no answer, so she left a message. Then she tried her cell phone, only to be directed to her voicemail. So she called me, as it was important that someone pick up my daughter as soon as possible. I excused myself from my team and drove as fast as I could to Shelby's school. I picked her up and we headed home. When we arrived and I opened the garage door, I was surprised to see a car I did not recognize parked in my car's spot next to my wife's. I immediately felt a lump in my throat and my stomach started to churn. No, it could not be, I told myself. My wife, the woman I loved more than life itself, could not be having an affair. That was not possible. But still, why was there a strange car in the garage with the door closed? Something was very wrong, and I had to find out, and I could not let my daughter discover it with me. Stay in the car for a minute, Shelby, I said. But why? I want to go to bed, she whined. I know, honey, but I think the exterminator is here spraying the house for bugs, and the spray will make you feel even worse. I lied, the first lie I had ever told my daughter. Let me check first, and then I will come get you. Shelby whined a little more, but lay back on the back seat to wait for me. As quietly as I could, I walked to the garage, used my key to open the kitchen door, hoping desperately to find my wife and one of her friends having coffee and chatting at the kitchen table. But when I turned the corner, the kitchen was empty. I went through the kitchen and headed towards the living room, expecting to find her sitting on the sofa chatting, but no one was there either. Then I heard her laugh, that cheerful, feminine laugh I knew so well. It was coming from upstairs, and my heart sank. The only rooms up there were the bedrooms. My knees went weak and I felt like I was going to throw up, but I forced myself to keep going. No matter how bad I feared things were, I had to find out. I went up the stairs silently, the carpet muffling the sound of my steps. The first bedroom was my daughter's. The door was open, and as I peeked in, I saw the room was empty, the bed still made. The second door led to my son's room, and the door was closed. I started to open it, and then I heard my wife's laugh again, coming from further down the hall, from the master suite. With my heart in my throat, I approached the edge of the door and listened. At first, I heard nothing. Then I heard the sound of the bed rocking gently against the wall, and then my wife's voice, "Oh God, Greg." Then a male voice, "Feels good, right, Jerry?" "Yes, Greg. You know you are so good, the best ever. I have told you 1,000 times. Not even your pathetic husband, Jack. Please, do not call him pathetic, Greg. He is not. He just cannot make me feel the way you do. He loves me so much and he tries so hard. But every time he makes love to me, all I can think about is having you." My body had turned to ice. My wife, whom I loved, could not stand the way I made love to her. I felt the bile rising in my throat, but I suppressed it. I had to see for myself, but at the same time I did not want to be seen. In that very second, I realized my marriage was over, but I still needed visual proof of her infidelity. With my heart completely shattered, I slowly turned the doorknob and opened the door just a few inches, just enough to peek in, and what I saw killed every ounce of love I ever had for my wife. She was with her boss, Greg Allen. My first inclination was to burst in and beat him unconscious, but I quickly decided that would only land me in jail. After all, he was not forcing my wife. She was giving herself to him willingly and enthusiastically. I turned around, closed the door silently, and awkwardly went down the stairs, holding back the nausea in my throat, determined not to vomit. Somehow I managed to get back to my car. I lowered the garage door and started the engine, backing out of the driveway. "Dad, where are we going?" "I am sick." I want to go to bed. I know, Shelby, but I was right. What is happening inside the house would make you feel even sicker than you already are. I was only inside for a few minutes, and it made me feel sick, I said. I was not telling the exact truth, but I was not lying either. I will take you to Grandma Sharon's house for a few hours until the bad smell goes away. It was a 15-minute drive to my mother's house, and as I drove, my mind went completely crazy. My marriage was over, it was done, without any hope of being saved. In no way would I stay with the person I saw a few minutes ago. They were doing it in my bed. That bitch. I slammed the steering wheel and tears started rolling down my cheeks. Dad, what is wrong? Nothing, Shelby. I am fine. It is just that the bad smell in the house really bothered me. It got to me. I am fine. Do not worry, I am fine. I left Shelby with her grandmother, telling her I would pick her up in a couple of hours. I did not explain anything to my mother about what I had witnessed. I just told her to take care of Shelby until I got back from work. I was tempted to go back to my house and confront the unfaithful couple, but I decided I needed more than just a confrontation. I needed revenge, and as I drove back to my office, I started to form the plans that would ruin my wife and her boss forever. The electronics company I worked for had several divisions. I was a senior engineer in the medical equipment division, and we shared a large complex with another division that designed and built commercial security equipment. When I got to my office, I told my secretary to make sure I was not disturbed for the rest of the afternoon, and then I picked up the phone and called my counterpart in the security division, Dan Taylor. He was an outstanding engineer and had been a good friend since college. I told him I needed to see him right away, and he said he was on his way to drop off some blueprints to be copied and that he would see me in half an hour. I told my secretary that Dan could come into my office as soon as he arrived, and true to his word, he knocked on my door 20 minutes after our phone conversation. What is going on, Jack? Come in, Dan, and close the door, I said. Wow, you look like you have lost your last friend, he told me. I think I have, and I need your help. Anything, Jack, what is going on? I just caught my wife and her boss having relations in my house, in my bed. Fuck, Jack, are you kidding me? I wish I were. I had to pick up my daughter from school, and when I got home, there was a strange car in my garage. I snuck in and found them in our bedroom, in our bed. I could not believe it, but it is true. Jack, that should not happen to anyone. What happened when you confronted them? I did not confront them. I wanted to, but my daughter is sick and I could not risk her seeing them like that, so I made her wait in the car. After seeing them together, I left silently and took Shelby to my mother's house. What are you going to do? I'm not quite sure, but I know I need proof. I need audio and video of them the next time they do it, and that is where you come in. I need security cameras and microphones, something small that I can hide in various rooms of the house, and that will record everything that happens. I think I can help you with that, Jack, but how do you know there will be a next time? Maybe this was a one-time thing where things got out of hand. No chance, Dan. They talked about the fact that they have been doing it regularly for the past 6 months. I do not know if they always go to my house, but I am willing to bet they do. Hotels leave paper trails that neither of them can afford, and his boss's wife stays at home, so that only leaves my house available when I am at work and the kids are at school. We talked for a few more minutes, and then we got down to business. Dan said he had access to a new beta line of miniature wireless cameras and microphones that would work with my laptop or my home computer. He also had a small voice-operated recorder that I could place under the seat of Jerry's car to capture any conversations she might have while driving. It would only capture her side of the conversation, but it was better than nothing. I thanked him and told him I would pick everything up at his office the next day. Going home that night was the hardest thing I had ever done in my life. I had no idea if I could face my wife and act as if nothing had happened. I thought the best thing I could do was to make Jerry think I was not feeling well, which was true. I picked up Shelby from my mother's house, and when I got home, Jerry was preparing dinner in the kitchen. When she saw I had brought Shelby with me, she became frantic. Where have you been, and why did not you call me to tell me Shelby was sick? I just got the message from the school nurse on the answering machine. The school tried to call you, Jerry, but for some reason you were not available. They called your office and were told you were not there. Then they tried the home phone and left the message. They even called your cell phone, but it went to voicemail. Oh God, I must have accidentally turned it off when I was showing houses. I did not have a minute to myself all day. Yes, I am sure of that. I thought, Too busy with your boss to worry about your daughter. Jerry hugged Shelby and told her how sorry she was, then helped her to bed. My wife may be a complete slut, but she loves her children. I was the one who seemed to be the impediment to her happiness. Well, that was about to change, and very soon. Jerry put our daughter to bed and returned to the kitchen to prepare soup for her and finish making dinner for the rest of us. I am not feeling well either, I said. I think I will sleep in the guest room tonight, just in case I am contagious. Jerry felt my forehead. You are a little sweaty, honey, and you look pale. Yes, I thought, pale and sweaty. That is what happens when you catch your wife with another man in your bed. I did not answer her. I just turned and went upstairs. I went first to the master suite. I hated going in there, but I needed my shaving things, toothbrush, and clothes for work the next day, so I forced myself into the room. A window was open and the smell of sex was gone, and the bed was made. She must have changed the sheets. It killed me to look at it. All I saw in my mind was her boss while she told him how good he was. The anger rose within me like a wave, but I suppressed it. I had to stay calm until I could unleash hell on both of them, and I would. That was a guarantee, I would. I gathered the items I needed and went to the guest room, closing the door behind me. I got into bed, my body felt stiff. I wanted to cry, but I held it back. I had a mission to accomplish, and I could not let emotions get in the way. For hours I lay in the dark, unable to sleep. My wife came into the room after she had fed the children and put them to bed. I pretended to be asleep. She touched my forehead with the palm of her hand and then left the room, closing the door behind her. Jerry always took the children to school, so I got up early, showered, and left the house before she got up. I am sure that seemed strange to her, but I would just tell her I needed to make up for the lost hours yesterday when I was not feeling well. Frankly, at this point, I did not care what she thought. I just wanted to get out of what until yesterday I thought was a beautiful marriage built on loyalty, honesty, and a lifelong commitment. How tragically wrong I was. I got to work before the office staff arrived. I made a pot of coffee, and I started planning. I knew I would need to cancel our joint credit cards, transfer half of our checking and savings accounts to another bank in my name only. I would change my will, the life insurance, and 401k beneficiaries, removing Jerry and naming only Shelby and Ryan. It seemed like so little to do to dissolve the last 13 years of my life. It should be harder, and deep down I knew that at some point it would be. I also knew I needed to find a good divorce lawyer to try to prevent Jerry from destroying me financially. This was a no-fault divorce state, so adultery would not influence the financial settlement. However, it could help me keep my children. Jerry had shown how unimportant I was in her life, but she was a good mother, and I did not want to keep her away from her children. I just wanted shared custody to remain an important part of their lives. I also did my best not to think about our love life and how humiliating it was to hear my wife tell her lover how superior he was to me in every way. I knew that if I allowed myself to think about that at this moment, I would start to doubt myself, and I could not afford to. I still knew that would come later, and when it finally hit me, it would probably destroy me. With my list finished, I called Dan's office. He was there and told me he would have everything I needed by noon. He would even go with me to help me install everything and make sure I knew how to use it. I tried to focus on getting some papers off my desk when my cell phone rang. I saw it was Jerry, so after 3 rings, I answered. Her voice never failed to make me feel warm, but this time the warmth was just a prelude to a burning rage. Hello, honey, how are you feeling? She asked in her most loving voice. Still a little lightheaded, I told her. If she only knew how sick I really am. I am worried about you, honey. You left this morning before I could check on you. Yes, I have a lot of things I need to sort out and not much time, so I came in early. Please, Jack, take care of yourself. I do not know what I would do if something happened to you. You know that you, Shelby, and Ryan are my whole life. You have a very strange way of showing it, I thought to myself, but what I said to her was, yes, I will be fine. I just need to get it out of my system. Well, if you are feeling better tonight, I can think of a good way to make everything better for you, the slut thought. And to think I have been so stupidly blind that I used to swallow her garbage without question, but that was no longer about to receive everything she deserved. I just had to bide my time. Sure, we will see how I feel. Wow, you must be really sick to be so uninterested in getting what you know belongs to you, honey. Not uninterested, Jerry. I just have a lot on my mind right now. See you tonight. I will be home at 6, honey. If you need anything, just call me. I will be at the office all day today. That was what I needed to hear. I called Dan. He said he had everything ready and that he would meet me at the loading dock door. We loaded everything into Dan's van, and with both of us working on the installation, we had everything in place and tested by 3:30. Dan installed the software on my home office PC and set up a secure folder to collect and store everything the cameras and microphones captured. We placed microphones and cameras in the living room, the kitchen, the guest room, and of course, the master suite, paying special attention to that room with 4 cameras that would capture practically everything that happened there. As a final touch, we also installed a camera and microphone in the master bathroom in case the couple decided to shower together after their affair. Everything was automatically activated by motion, with the cameras turning on the microphones. I was ready. That night was the hardest of my life. I could not bring myself to pretend to be sick again. I followed my wife to our room. Jerry, sometimes I wonder if I am man enough for you. Jack, why would you say something like that? You know you have always been man enough for me. My life would end if something happened to you. I will never need anyone else as long as I have you. You are my perfect lover. You always have been. You always will be. Yes, I guess sometimes it is hard to believe. Jack, what is wrong with you? Nothing, Jerry. I am just tired. And I closed my eyes, trying to sleep. A while later, I heard Jerry sobbing softly. I felt no pity for her, but I wondered if she was crying out of shame for what she was doing or because she felt I was being cruel to her. Again, I got up before her and took the opportunity to install the voice recorder under the seat of her car. I also checked the video and sound of the installed equipment. When Jerry got up, she was a bit short at first, telling me that I had said some things the night before that had hurt her feelings. Then she gave me a kiss on the cheek, and her mood changed to a more cheerful one. I guess that was due to her plans for that afternoon with her boss. I served her a cup of coffee and told her I would be locked in my office all day. She told me she had to spend the whole afternoon showing several houses and that she was pretty sure she was going to make a big sale, but that she could pick up Shelby and Ryan after school. With a kiss on the cheek, I headed for the garage door, only for Jerry to say, "Jack, you forgot to tell me you love me, honey. You know how important it is for me to hear you say that to me every morning before we start our days." I am sorry, Jerry. I guess by now you should know how I feel about you. I just have a lot on my mind. It is okay. I forgive you this time, but a girl needs to hear her man tell her he loves her. Do not forget. I promise I will not forget. And I left. Yes, I will tell some girl how much I love her, if I ever find another girl I can trust enough to fall in love with. The information Jerry gave me about showing houses all afternoon made me believe that she would probably spend some time with the true love of her life. I hoped that was the case. I was tired of playing games. I wanted this whole mess to be over once and for all. I spent the morning actually getting some work done in my office, although I kept looking at my watch. Finally, at noon, I told my secretary I would be out for a few hours, and I put my plan in motion. I took a company van and parked it across the street from my house, where I waited to see what would happen. It was not until almost 1 p.m. when I saw Jerry's car pull into the driveway, open the garage door, and park in her usual spot. When she got out of her car and went into the house without closing the garage door, I thought she would either leave again right away or she was waiting for someone. 10 minutes later, I found out she was waiting for someone, as the same car I had seen the day I caught them together pulled up our driveway and into the garage, taking my spot. I saw him get out of the car and the garage door closed. I have to admit, they had guts to be so brazen as to meet at my house, in my bed, to carry out their affair. That just showed me that they both believed there was no way they would be discovered, or they had come to the conclusion that they did not care if they got caught or not. Well, they would soon find out how wrong they were on both counts. They had been caught, and I would make sure they both cared a lot about it. With this final proof of my wife's infidelity and knowing that I would soon have all the visual proof I needed of their dirty affair, I finally let the tears fall. For 13 years I was convinced that my loving wife would never cheat on me, just as I would never cheat on her. And with the tears came the first round of doubts. Was he so superior as a lover? I saw that he was no bigger than me. Maybe he was more handsome, although neither of us would win a beauty contest. Why would he risk destroying our marriage and his own, since he must realize that there was no way I would not tell his wife exactly what the two of them were doing? I desperately wanted to go into the house and confront them, But for what? What would that accomplish? I would catch them in the act, but hell, I had already done that once, although they were not aware of it. Would I feel better hitting her lover? Yes, but I would probably end up in jail for it, and frankly, at this point, neither of them were worth it. My only concern was how all this horror would affect my children and his children too, since I was willing to destroy him just as he had destroyed me. At 2:30, they must have finished because the garage door opened and her lover's car backed out of the driveway and left. 15 minutes later, my wife did the same, closing the garage door behind her. I knew she would be home with the kids at 3:30, so I quickly parked in the garage and headed to my home office. I did not want to take the time to review all the footage the cameras had recorded. I just wanted to make sure the evidence I needed was safe on my hard drive. After 10 minutes, I had seen enough. It was not a total repeat of the last time they were together, but it was pretty graphic. They started on the kitchen table, in the place where I eat my meals. After that, they moved to our bedroom. I noticed that neither of them ever said they loved each other, but my wife did continue to tell her boss that he was by far the best lover she had ever had. As a final act, they moved to the rug by the fireplace in the living room. Then, while he got dressed and left, she took a quick shower before leaving as well. I found it strange that she did not take the time to change the sheets, but I assumed she would do it when she brought the children home at 3:30. That left her enough time to air out the room and clean up the evidence, since I rarely got home before 6. Knowing that the evidence I needed was safe on my hard drive, I turned off the system and left the house without even bothering to check the mess I assumed was still present on my marriage bed. I had seen enough, and although my heart was hardened against my wife, I still felt sick inside, a sickness that was soon replaced by a burning anger and hatred. I think I even smiled, knowing the hell I was about to unleash on the heads of those two unfaithful people. I went back to work and told Dan everything I had seen and heard. Like me, he still could not understand how a supposedly loving wife like Jerry could do what was now clear she was doing. She had not only shattered our sacred marriage vows, but she had gone out of her way to humiliate me before her lover, always letting him know that he was a better lover, more of a man, the only person who could complete her. All those thoughts sank my soul into a deep abyss of pain and despair from which I knew I had to emerge in order to finish my task of destroying both of them. I needed to find a good divorce lawyer, and Dan suggested I contact the law firm the company used to see if they could recommend someone. I spoke with one of the corporate lawyers I knew at the firm, and he gave me 3 names of divorce lawyers who, he said, had a good track record in protecting husbands' rights. The first one I called was about to retire and was not taking on new clients, but the second one said he would make time to see me the next day in the afternoon at 3. With that settled, I decided to take care of canceling the credit cards, changing the beneficiaries, and moving money the next morning. When I got home that night, Jerry was in the kitchen preparing dinner while the children were doing their homework in their rooms. She was wearing a yellow summer dress and looked beautiful, and for a minute I thought my heart would break again. She was smiling and seemed so happy. I assumed it was her usual good mood after an afternoon of pleasure. "Hello, honey. How is my man? I hope you had as good a day as I did," she said, making me raise my eyebrows in surprise. My day was interesting, not so good really, but I discovered several interesting things I did not know. "Why was yours so great?" I asked, knowing perfectly well why she was so happy. "I made a sale," she said, "the first of the week, but I think I might have another one on Thursday when I show more houses." "I guess today was your lucky day," I said without much enthusiasm. "Anything else special today? Did you meet anyone interesting or special?" I asked. She gave me a strange look. "No, honey, just the usual, working to get through the day so I can come home and be with my family. You know that is where my heart is." I nodded as I changed. I noticed the sheets had been changed and the room aired out. There was still water on the shower floor, and I mentioned that when I returned to the kitchen. "Did you take a shower sometime this afternoon?" She jumped upon hearing my words and turned to me with a guilty expression on her face. "No, of course not, silly. Why would I do that? I do not know, but there is water on the shower floor, and it never stays there for more than a few hours." "Oh, the drain is probably clogging up again," she said. "Yes, maybe, but I cleaned it a couple of weeks ago. Maybe someone is sneaking into the house to have a tryst with their lover and takes a shower after they have had relations," I said. This time she froze in place for several seconds. She did not turn to look at me. She just continued facing the counter with her head down. Then she continued shredding the lettuce for a salad. Wow, Jack, you certainly have a vivid imagination to come up with something like that. Yes, that is me, I said. Mr. Imagination, or is it telepathy? Sometimes I think I can read people's minds. Well, if you could read my mind, you would see how much I love you. And she tried to laugh, but it sounded forced. I will be in my office. Let me know when dinner is ready, I told her, and she turned slightly to look at me. She seemed worried. The dinner was quiet. There was not much conversation. Jerry seemed surprised when I took her usual place at the table. I had her sit in my place, where she had had relations with her boss a few hours earlier. Jack, you always eat at that place at the table. Why change now? Oh, it is nice to have a change of scenery once in a while, Jerry. Jerry gave me a strange look, and when she sat down, she did not eat much. She just moved the food around her plate. During dinner, the children talked about their day, but Jerry and I just listened for the most part, making appropriate comments from time to time. After we all helped wash the dishes, I went back to my office to work on my project. I reviewed the recordings from that day and selected suitable images to turn into photographs. I downloaded them to a photo file so I could print them large on my Epson T3000. Then I carefully chose the words for the posters I would create with the photographs. All that was left to do was see my lawyer to start the divorce, get my finances in order, and wait until the next time my wife and her lover visited my house. When I finally went to bed that night, Jerry was already asleep, or at least she pretended to be. I was pretty sure my actions that night had given her something to think about. Not that it mattered. There was nothing she could do or say that would change my decision to divorce her treacherous self. And there was a slight satisfaction in the fact that I think I had made her at least a little nervous. Today was Tuesday, and she had mentioned that she thought she would make another sale on Thursday, so I took that as a sign that she and her lover would be meeting that day. That would also be the day I would destroy them. The next morning, again, I got up early, showered, and left before Jerry woke up. I had a lot to do and wanted to give myself as much time as possible to achieve it. My appointment with the lawyer was not until 3, so I had plenty of time to take care of all the financial matters. My first stop was at Human Resources, where I changed the beneficiary of my life insurance and 401k from Jerry to Shelby and Ryan. I got some strange looks from the woman who helped me, but I did not feel I owed her or anyone else an explanation for my actions. My next step was to cancel all our joint credit cards and get another one in my name only. Then I went to the bank and transferred half the money from our joint checking and savings accounts to another bank, also in my name. I knew I had to do something about our house, but I was pretty sure the courts would let Jerry stay there with the children, so I postponed any action on that front until I could consult with my lawyer. At 3, I met with my lawyer, and he seemed like a pretty nice guy. He warned me that since we were in a no-fault divorce state, I could expect her to get custody of Shelby and Ryan, and that I would lose the house and half of everything else to my wife, even if I had proof of her infidelity. I explained how I wanted him to draft the petition, and when he told me I would never succeed in keeping almost everything, I told him not to worry. I was pretty sure I could convince her to accept whatever I wanted. He was not happy, but he agreed to my demands, telling me he would have everything ready for the papers to be served on Friday morning. I also asked him to prepare documents to file a lawsuit against her boss and the company he co-owned for intentionally destroying my marriage. Those documents would also be ready by Friday morning. I was all set. When I got home that night, I was cold to Jerry. Frankly, I was fed up and just wanted it all to be over so I could get on with my life. I knew there was still a lot of pain and suffering ahead, but I understood there was no turning back, and anyway, I would finally be sharing the pain and suffering with my unfaithful wife and her idiot lover. After a quiet dinner with little conversation, I retired to my cave. I printed the photos of the lovers I was going to use and created the posters, getting everything done without interruptions. I also had time to write a letter to Greg Allen's wife, enclosing 4x5 prints of the large photos I was using on the posters, and telling her I had a lot of video to provide her in case she decided to divorce her husband, as I was doing with my wife. Shortly after 11, I went to our bedroom to make sure Jerry was asleep. Then I went to her car, retrieved the voice recorder I had placed under her seat, and rewound it to see what it had recorded. I was only getting one side of the conversations, and there seemed to be several real business calls, but there was one that appeared to be with Greg. "Hello, love. Thanks again for this afternoon. I always miss you too after we are together. Yes. Oh my God. A whole week together would be paradise. Yes, maybe we can do it soon. We can invent a real estate convention we absolutely must attend. Laughter. Yes, honey. We are on for Thursday afternoon. I cannot wait either. Goodbye, honey. I was surprised to find that what she said did not hurt me as much as before. Maybe there was still hope for me. Little did she know how soon she would be his exclusive property forever. And of course, the fact that I was one day away from destroying their sweet lives gave me a warm feeling. I was discovering that revenge was a powerful medicine. I replaced the tape and put the recorder back under her seat, hoping it would record evidence of her torture the next day when her world came crashing down. I hardly slept that night, not because I was heartbroken. I was already over that. I had no trouble sleeping in anticipation of everything I hoped would happen the next day. For the last time, I got out of bed while Jerry was still sleeping. I stood looking at the woman who had been the love of my life, the mother of my children, the woman I hoped to spend the rest of my life with. I felt tears fill my eyes as I realized I had slept with her for the last time. I would never make love to her again. We would never cuddle again or talk about our future. We had no future, and as I walked away from her, I wondered if she had any idea of the price she was about to pay for betraying me. Probably not, but she would soon find out. I showered and left the house. I stopped for breakfast at a diner and then made a brief stop at work to inform my secretary I would be out all day. I called Dan and told him what was about to happen. He wished me luck, told me to be careful, and to let him know how everything went. I made a quick stop at my lawyer's office to make sure everything was ready for my wife and Greg Allen to be served the papers the next day. After that, I called my wife to tell her I would pick up the children from school. My mother said that since they did not have school on Friday, she wanted to have them for the long weekend, so I would stop by the house around 3:45 to pick up some clothes and take them straight to Mom's house. She thought that was wonderful, and, using her sexiest voice, she told me that would give us time on Saturday to spend the day in bed. Sure, I told her and hung up. I had reached the point where I just could not stand to hear her nonsense. I took my time getting back home. At 12:30, I was already parked on the corner, waiting for the action to begin. My car was mostly hidden from view, but I could see any car that entered my driveway. I did not need to see the garage door go up and down. My wife and her lover were predictable if nothing else, and I was aware of their routine. At 12:50, I saw Jerry's car turn into the driveway, followed 5 minutes later by Greg Allen's. The bait had been taken, and I was ready to reel it in. I should have felt pain knowing that my wife and her boss were having relations like crazy in my marriage bed while I waited on the corner for them to finish, but she had lost her ability to hurt me. I could not believe how calm I was as I imagined in my mind all the things I knew they were doing together. At 3:10, I saw Alan's idiot car back out of the driveway and leave. 10 minutes later, Jerry did the same. I noticed that as she drove away, she was applying new lipstick. As soon as they were gone, I entered the garage and closed the door. I had work to do and not much time to do it. I went to my office and checked the tape from that afternoon's session. Everything was there. So were the insults about how much better he was at having relations and at giving her pleasure than I could ever be. This time there was a difference, however. This time I did not care. After making sure the material was safely stored on my hard drive, I spent the next 10 minutes carrying all my handmade posters with their photographs upstairs, placing them by the front door where they would be handy. Then I packed a small bag of toiletries and some clothes for Shelby and Ryan and put them in my car. The only regret I had about what I was about to do was the pain it was going to cause the two children I loved more than anything in the world. I took comfort in the fact that I had not caused the pain they would soon feel upon realizing their mom and dad were no longer together. No, that responsibility rested firmly on their mother's shoulders. She was the one who chose to have a long affair and completely destroy her family. At 3:15, I drove to their school and was there to pick them up when the last bell rang. I told them they would be spending the weekend with Grandma, and since she always spoiled them, they were delighted. 45 minutes later, I had dropped them off and returned home, where I put my plan into action, and that brings us back to where we started: bed, table, and rug in the garden with all the posters, the neighbors watching, and Jerry returning home to be horrified to discover the truth, that I knew everything. I did not hear from Jerry that night, although I thought I would. There was a call late that night from her cell phone, but when I answered, there was no one on the other side. The police visited me an hour after Jerry left. They were sympathetic, but told me I had to take down the posters and photographs, or they would have to fine me for disturbing the peace and for public indecency. I took them down. They had done what I wanted them to do. My wife had seen them, and I knew from the look on her face before I turned away that her life had begun to descend into hell. That night, I drank almost a whole bottle of Maker's Mark and passed out in a drunken stupor. I woke up on Friday morning with a first-class hangover, but despite that, I still felt a sense of power. Yes, I was sad and lonely, but I knew I had had the strength to bury my anger and hatred long enough to get my revenge on my unfaithful wife and her idiot lover. Around noon, I opened the curtains of the front window and saw that the rug, the kitchen table, and the bed were gone. The only things left were the mattress and the stained sheets. I thought I would take them or burn them later. The rest of the morning was uneventful, but at 3 in the afternoon, chaos began to erupt. I was sure that Greg Adams's wife would have received the letter and photographs that morning, and my lawyer had called me to inform me that both Jerry and Greg Adams and his partners had been served at work. He said he was there when they were served the papers, and Jerry screamed and fell to the floor crying while Greg Adams completely ignored her as he walked through the office calling me a son of a bitch and threatening to kill me. His partners, however, locked themselves behind closed doors for 15 minutes before returning to hand Jerry her final check and tell her they no longer needed her services. They also handed Greg a check for his share in the partnership. When he told them he had no intention of selling his share to them, they cited the section of the corporate bylaws on morality and fraternization with employees. The section clearly gave them the mandate and the right to sever all ties with him and his lover at the same time. The receptionist at the entrance informed him that his wife was on the phone, demanding to speak with him. She had received the letter and photos I had sent and wanted to tell him not to bother coming home, and that she was informing him that she was going to file for divorce the next day. I later learned from the husband of one of the women who worked at the agency that after Adams was escorted out of the building, everyone turned their backs on my future ex-wife, and she was left on the floor for a good 30 minutes crying and moaning. At some point, apparently, she managed to compose herself enough to leave the building, but no one was sure where she had gone. The next day, I finally received a call from Jerry. She sounded horrible. She wanted to know where the children were and if they knew. I told her they were safe at my mother's house, that they did not know anything, and would not hear any of the sordid details from me. She thanked me for that, and then asked if she could come by to pick up some of her things. And of course, I told her she could. All she had to do was tell me when, and I would be gone for a few hours while she collected what she needed. She wanted to know if I could stay and talk to her, and I told her I really had nothing to say to her, which made her start crying again. "You know I am sorry," she said. "You have to know how sorry I am, Jack, and that I never meant to hurt you." I could not help it. I started to laugh. "How the hell can you tell me you are sorry, Jerry, and that you never wanted to hurt me? What did you think I would do when I found out?" "Congratulate you both. I never wanted you to know. I love you, Jack. I have never loved anyone but you." "I do not think I really believe that, Jerry. How could you, after telling your lover how much better he made you feel than I ever could? How he was the only man who could complete you? How every time we made love, all you could think about was wanting to have him?" "Jack, I never said those things. How could you think I would say something like that?" "Because I have the recordings of you telling him those things, Jerry. Every word. I have everything, Jerry. Every word. Every degrading thing you could say about any man, you said to your lover about me, your husband. I have nothing to say to you, Jerry, and there is nothing you can say to me that will make the slightest difference in how I feel about you. I love you, Jack. You have to believe that I have always loved only you. I do not know what made me say those things to him, Greg. You have to believe I did not mean any of them. I was just trying to boost his ego because he was always telling me how his wife always put him down. Let me get this straight. You constantly humiliated me in front of him, belittling my efforts in lovemaking, so he would feel better because you felt sorry for how his wife treated him? That is your story. You felt bad because his wife put him down, so you not only put me down, but you also comforted him in every possible way for the last 6 months, just so he would feel better about himself. Yes, Jack, I never wanted to hurt you. I did not mean any of it. If you did not mean any of it, why did you do it, Jerry? I do not know, Jack. You are really a very sick person, Jerry. I am surprised it took me so long to realize it. Shame on me for being so blind. I do not love him, Jack. I love you. Please, Jack, if you can find it in your heart to give me a chance to make it up to you. I was so stupid, Jack. You have to believe it. I made a mistake, but that cannot be the end of us. Let me show you, please, Jack. Please do not leave me. I am sorry, Jerry. I do not love you, and I do not have to leave you. You left me. The things you did with him and the degrading and humiliating things you said about me over and over again for more than 6 months prove that you do not love me. You cannot love someone and wish them that kind of pain, hurt, and humiliation. I find you disgusting, Jerry, a wicked and disgusting slut, and I cannot wait to get you out of my life. I would not touch your disgusting body even if you were the last woman on earth. The only reason I will ever have anything to do with you is because of the children. Remember Shelby and Ryan, the children we created when we were still a family? You have screwed them over too. I want to spare them as much pain as possible, but I do not want to spare you anything. In fact, I want you to feel all the pain you have caused me. You and your lover Greg deserve it, and I want you to feel it. Why did you tell his wife, Jack? That was unfair. Unfair? You are completely delusional, Jerry. What you did to me and our children is unfair. Why the hell do you think I told her? Number 1. He destroyed my family by having relations with my wife over and over again. Number 2. He took over the only body in this world I thought was mine to have and to hold, and she told him how wonderful he was and how miserable I was. And number 3. His wife needed to know what a miserable failure of a human being she is married to. What she does with that information is up to her. They have children, Jack. So do I, Jerry, and they are what I want to protect. I feel bad for his children too, but it is not because of me that they may face the possibility of a future without their father. It is his fault, and yours too, Jerry. I refuse to take any blame here. I do not want a divorce, Jack. I will fight for our marriage. There is nothing to fight for. I would honestly rather be dead than have to be tied to you for the rest of my life. You know you still love me, Jack. You have to. You cannot just turn that off over something like this. My God, you are delusional, completely out of your mind. Did you read the divorce petition you were served with? No, why should I? If you just listen to reason and let me make it up to you, there will be no divorce. If you had bothered to read the petition, you would see that as long as you agree to shared custody of our children, you can stay in the house and have half of all our possessions. What is not in the petition, but what I am telling you now, is that if you do not sign the petition and agree to the more than favorable terms I am offering you, I will share the videos of you and your stupid lover with everyone you have ever known, including your parents, your sister and her children, and anyone else I can think of. You would not do that, Jack. You cannot hate me that much. Oh, that is where you are wrong, Jerry. I can and I will, and there is nothing on earth that will stop me. Cross me, and I will ruin your life forever. And yes, Jerry, I can hate you that much. Please, Jack, do not do this. Sign the divorce papers, Jerry. Please, Jack, let me make this right. I cannot do it. Sign the papers, Jerry. Oh God, please. Sign the papers, Jerry. And I hung up. Jerry signed the papers, and the divorce was finalized in 6 months. She lives with Shelby and Ryan in the house we used to share, and I live in a condo a few blocks away. We are in the same school district, so there was little disruption to the children's schedule, although the pain of the divorce was felt by both of them. Shelby told me that her mother had admitted she had made a big mistake and that our marriage could not overcome it, but we both assured the children we would always be there for them. I have no idea what Jerry told her parents and sisters about the breakup, but since they still communicate with me, I assume she did not tell them I was the one to blame. As for my mother, she considers it was something neither Jerry nor I could overcome. I had one last chance to retrieve the audio recorder from Jerry's car, and the audio track was memorable. She called Greg on her way home and again thanked him for a wonderful afternoon, but told him she thought I might be suspicious and suggested they cool things off for a couple of weeks, just until she knew the coast was clear. Then, when she got to the house, she was confused to see all the people in the street looking at our yard. When she saw the signs and photographs and realized what I had done, her screams almost broke the recorder as she drove away in her car. She cried and said, "What did you do, Jack? What did you do?" And then I think reality hit her like a bucket of ice water, and her story changed too. Oh God, what did I do? No, God, please, what did I do? Please, God, make all this go away. She managed to call her lover, and when he answered, she screamed, "He knows. Greg, about us. Jack knows everything. And then just crying for a long time. It has been a year now since the fires of hell passed over all of us, and gradually, I am starting to put the pieces back together again. I do not date yet, and it is likely I will not for a while. The thought of repeating what I have just been through still keeps me very cautious about entering a serious relationship. Shelby told me that her mother went on a date once, but came home crying, and as far as she knows, has not dated anyone since. Jerry found a job as a receptionist in a nursing home and has left the real estate sector, at least for the time being. I never knew if she is still in contact with Greg Allen, and I do not care. Greg Allen and his wife are divorced, and he has not been able to find a job. Although I did not send the video to anyone Jerry knew, I was not so kind to Greg. It seems that many companies are scared by the possibility of hiring someone with a reputation for seducing married women and breaking up their marriages. Of course, I blurred Jerry's face in the videos, but left all the audio intact. I recently heard that Greg's ex-wife is dating a good man, a police officer, and it seems the relationship is getting serious. I am happy for her. Oh, and speaking of Greg's old company, to avoid negative publicity, they made me a generous offer to prevent me from suing them. I accepted, and on my part, everything is in the past. For now, I am only interested in my children and their future. Maybe someday my future will also become important to me. Jack Meyer was really very clever and meticulous in his plan and every step he took. His revenge was wonderful. From the moment he places the cameras and microphones, where he prints the photos, takes the furniture out to the yard, waits for the exact moment for the divorce papers to arrive at work, and makes all of Greg's acquaintances see the video, thus ensuring that he will not have a job again. Without planning it, he receives a generous offer so that the wife's company is not sued, and at no time does he endanger the children from knowing what had happened.